let's see, Brian. Over the course of the first hour of the show, or 50 minutes, I should say, we've covered Georgia, we've covered Georgia Tech, we've covered a high school football player going to Georgia, covered 2 area football players going to Georgia Tech. So now it's time to move on to Georgia Southern.
Because North Georgia doesn't have a football team.
North Georgia does not have a football team. They do have very good basketball teams, though. And golf, and softball, baseball, tennis, I don't know so much about. You can hear Georgia Southern's action in football each and every fall here on AM 550, FM 102.9, WDUN. And earlier today, in the midst of the hubbub that is National Signing Day, I was able to catch up with first-year coach Willie Fritz. This is his first recruiting class for Georgia Southern University. We had a long talk. We're going to bring it to you now. First question was overall assessment, Coach Willie Fritz, of this year's 17-deep signing class.
Well, obviously very exciting. My first signing class here at Georgia Southern, and more importantly, the first class in school history as far as the FBS is concerned. So that's a big deal for us. I feel like we did a good job of addressing a lot of the needs that we had. I was very fortunate. Chad Lunsford and Jack Curtis were already on staff prior to my arrival. I was able to get some information from them about what we need offensively as far as what we have currently. And I thought overall we did a great job. Needed some young offensive linemen and signed 5 of them. And we needed some immediate help in the defensive back position, particularly corner, and we're able to sign a couple JC kids who got a lot of experience. So overall, we're very, very excited about the class.
Your offensive linemen, how are they different from maybe the ones Georgia Southern's had in the past, if they are at all? I know that your offense wants to throw the ball more than Georgia Southern has. So talk about specifically those 5 offensive linemen you signed.
A little bit more size. We need a little bit bigger guy. We're fortunate that we've got a lot of seniors coming back who've got some size, but the offense they've been running here in the past as far as the triple option has been more straight ahead, veer-type blocking where they're releasing up to the second level. We're going to have to sustain our blocks just a little bit longer in the style of triple option that we run, so we need a little bit bigger guy. And it's also something that Georgia Southern's been running in the past. They've been running out of a shotgun formation and the pistol formation, so it's really not that dissimilar to what they've been doing.
All right, I want to talk about you keeping kids in state. That is a point, and with any school that I have covered today, looking at their recruits and who's signed with them, I love it when I see a young man from Georgia State in state, whether it's Georgia Southern, Georgia Tech, or Valdosta State. I absolutely love that. You've got 5 kids that you've signed from Georgia. How important is it for you to pull from the talent pool that is in your backyard?
Very, very important. To be honest with you, disappointed we weren't able to get more, but unfortunately, with as late as we got in, it was difficult to get some of these kids that we felt like were FBS football players and be able to take us to a Sun Belt championship. But that's going to be our primary area. We're also fortunate that not only are we in a great area in the state of Georgia, but we're also in very close proximity to a lot of other states that play great football. But, our number one objective is to do a great job in the state of Georgia.
One of your signees, and I'm looking at Ken Butler, is from Blinn College, which anyone who knows you come from. It's an area that you come from. You coach there. How the relationships there, did that help in getting a player like Ken Butler?
Yeah, it really did. One of the coaches that I brought with me from Sam Houston, Mike Moots, was the defensive coordinator at Blinn a year ago. And he had a good relationship with Ken. Ken was actually an All-American over at Blinn this year and was recruited by a few of the other schools in the Sun Belt Conference, and we were very fortunate to get him.
I'm looking at schools like Lowndes that you pulled from in Georgia, of course, Camden County. Those are the 2 big areas that are perennial powerhouses. How important is it for you to pull from those kinds of schools where these kids come in having played in big games already, huge games already, sometimes even in the Georgia Dome?
No, I think it's very, very important. We'll take a chance and take some young men who have played in some lower classifications. I think that may be the difference between Georgia and some other states. That it seems like almost every one of these schools that may not have high enrollment have got an excellent football player or two. But, I also like, recruiting those guys that have been in big ball games, played in front of a lot of people, and oftentimes they're a little bit more ready-made. But we're going to recruit from the smallest school to the biggest school in the state of Georgia.
That sounds good to me. Coach Willie Fritz, thanks so much for being with us. Congratulations on your first recruiting class at Georgia Southern. 17 signees. Nothing to scoff at, sir. I'm sure you're going to make great players out of them at Georgia Southern. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.
His voice usually sounds like that. He hasn't been yelling at people today. Actually, right after we got off the phone this afternoon, he got up in front of a contingency at Georgia Southern, much like Mark Richt did at the University of Georgia, much like Paul Johnson did at Georgia Tech, and I'm sure Nick Saban at Alabama, Gus Malzahn at Auburn, Brett Bielema at Arkansas, and so on and so forth, got up in front of a contingency of fans that had gathered to assess this year's recruiting class, and I'm happy that he took some time out to talk to me. So the Atlanta Falcons, news out of the NFL, we're going to move on here. Atlanta Falcons started the process of changing the roster for next season by releasing veteran cornerback Asante Samuel, linebacker Stephen Nicholas. Both players lost their starting positions this past season as the Falcons struggled to, as we well know, a 4-12 record. Samuel, drafted in New England by new Falcons assistant general manager Scott Pioli, he was benched in favor of rookie cornerback Robert Alford. I, for one, believe that was a positive move for the Atlanta Falcons. Get those young guys some playing time, and Robert Alford was a solid player. He was a solid cornerback for the Falcons this year. Samuel battled a thigh injury. I don't think it would have mattered anyway. He wasn't that good to begin with. For the Falcons, 33-year-old Samuel, fourth-round pick of the Patriots in 2003. Nicholas, fourth-round pick of the Falcons in 2007, was the team's leading tackler in 2012. But you had the emergence of undrafted rookie linebackers Paul Rarillo and Joplo Bartu, and then they made Nicholas dispensable. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Nicholas missed 2 games with quad injury last season. Now, here's the big thing, saving the Falcons some moolah, some money. It all comes down to the dollars when you're talking pro sports. Samuel saved the Falcons $4.5 million in cap space. Releasing Nicholas made for a $2 million savings. Hopefully that's going to help him out in the draft, maybe even help him out in free agency, but we'll see as the months go along. All right, when we come back, Gainesville track star, future Wofford track star Sarah Hay is going to join us in studio. This is Game On. I'm Katie B on WDUN.